This is the OnePlus Open, a new flagship foldable from OnePlus, their first foray into the world of foldables. Now, usually I am not a fan of first-gen products, but the Open does not really feel like a first-gen product, probably due to Oppo's experience with the Find N series. Now, in today's video, I'm gonna break this down into 5 categories and detail everything that OnePlus has done here with the OnePlus Open. Hey guys, you're watching C4E Tech. My name's Ash, and let's get started. Regardless of if I'm using it folded or unfolded, the OnePlus Open is one of the most comfortable foldables I've used, and it's largely due to some choices OnePlus has made. For example, this vegan leather finish here on the black version, the one OnePlus calls Voyager Black, it adds to the grip. It feels nice. Now, if you don't like it, there's also a glass option in the emerald green. Look closely and you can see this phone is pretty sleek, just 5.9mm unfolded, 11.9mm folded. Apart from that, OnePlus have used cobalt, molybdenum and titanium alloys, helping them keep the weight relatively low at 239 grams, which, if you think about it, is lesser than even some flagship candy bar phones. On top of it, there's an IPX4 rating to keep splashes away, and there's a vastly improved Flexion hinge which is capable of draining any water that gets into it. And then we have OnePlus's staple, the alert slider, being included. There's also an IR blaster for convenience. I really like what OnePlus have done here with the build. Like I said earlier, the Open, it feels quite refined. When it comes to foldables, optics is one area brands have typically compromised on due to size constraints. Because you get this much space to fit cameras in a standard phone, while you only get this much on a foldable. Here, OnePlus has tried hard not to compromise on the shooting experience. The camera array to the back is just as large as the one we find on flagship Oppo and OnePlus phones. We get 3 sensors here alongside a color temperature sensor, and this phone also gets the Hasselblad branding, so stuff like Hasselblad filters in the expand mode are available, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with the primary. Here, OnePlus have gone with a whole new sensor to retain quality while cutting down on space. The LYT T808 is a 48-megapixel pixel stacked CMOS sensor from Sony. OnePlus claims this sensor should perform close to the 1-inch IMX989 that we've been seeing on camera-focused flagships this year. Now that's just the claim. It's something I'm gonna have to test more before I can confirm or contradict, and I'll save that for my full review. For now, the images, as you can see, they turned out quite well, detailed with good dynamic range. The way they've managed to achieve this is by stacking the pixels. Instead of arranging pixels on the same plane, which is what happens with your regular IMX sensors, here they're separated into 2 layers of pixel transistors below the photodiodes. This pixel stack technology, it lets brands cut down on space while still allowing for a lot more light to be let in. The low-light shots, as you can see here, they did end up quite nice. So my initial impressions have been positive. Like I said, there is a lot more testing I need to do. For video, we can shoot 4K at up to 60 frames per second, and the footage is stable, the dynamic range is really good, and it's also pretty detailed. Particularly, I like the mic pickups on this one. And guys, I am shooting this by myself because when you tap here, you get a full preview on the outer display, and when you tap this little icon, that causes all the controls to move outside too. I like the implementation. As for ultra-wides, we have a 48-megapixel Sony IMX581, and it seems to do a pretty good job too. For telephoto, OnePlus have chosen to go with a 64-megapixel sensor. This one is from OmniVision, the OV64B, and it allows for 3x telephoto, but OnePlus also lets you shoot from the center of the sensor for 6x lossless zoom. The initial impressions once again seem quite promising. For selfies, we have 2 different sensors. First, there's what they're calling the primary selfie. That's the one on the inside, a 20-megapixel f2.2. And then there's one on the outside, that's 32-megapixel f2.2. And yes, we can shoot 4K footage via the selfie camera, and this is footage being shot by the outer selfie camera, the 32-megapixel one. And this is via the primary selfie camera, the 20-megapixel one on the inside. So how do you guys think this looks? Let me know in the comments. Now there are 2 aspects to the experience a user ends up with. One is the hardware aspect, which a lot of brands get right, and OnePlus has to. The OnePlus Open is powered by the latest, at least as of today, latest flagship Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 SoC. That's paired with 16 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM and 512 gigs of fast UFS 4.0 storage. As you can see, it games well enough, and if you wanted to emulate stuff, it can run pretty much any system you throw at it. And playing retro games on foldables, given that aspect ratio, it's always been an awesome experience. But there is another aspect that affects the user experience, and that's software. The main advantage of having a foldable is getting all that extra screen real estate. So utilizing it properly, in my opinion, is of utmost importance. This is an area where we've seen other brands fail in the past. OnePlus, despite this being their first foldable, they've actually come out of the gate firing on all cylinders. They call this open canvas. From the taskbar, you can just drag and drop different apps to launch them side by side. And if you want, you could switch that to top and bottom. On top of that, you can even do this, where the app just moves out of focus. So when needed, you can just tap and bring it back into focus. You can even have 3 apps running side by side this way. We also get support for floating windows, and this taskbar, long press and it's gone, long press again and it's back. So I feel the software is very well implemented here. The haptics seem fine, the UI is quite responsive, the Open is running on Oxygen OS 13.2 built atop Android 13, and OnePlus promises 4 years of Android version updates alongside 5 years of security patches, which is excellent. Despite how sleek this phone is, OnePlus have still managed to include a 4805 mAh battery on the inside. They also provide an 80 or 67 watt charger in the box depending on the market, and the Open is expected to get from 1 to 100 in about 40 minutes, which is pretty good. The fact that there is no support for wireless charging though, I feel that's an area for improvement. This is the big one, isn't it? At the end of the day, foldables are expensive, but people still buy them because they provide something candy bar phones just cannot: more screen real estate. Here we have an almost squarish 1 by 1.07 aspect ratio toting 7.82-inch OLED display on the inside. It's a 10-bit panel with a 2K resolution and has a 120Hz refresh with LTPO 3.0 technology, so it can easily switch between 1 to 120 Hz based on requirement. The crease here is almost invisible, one of the mildest ones I've come across. You really don't notice it when you look at the phone head on. Now this panel, it can go up to 2800 nits for HDR content, and it's pretty bright to easily use outdoors. Actually, even the panel on the outside, it can do the same 2800 nits. I like how OnePlus has tried to keep the experience uniform across both panels. This one's a 1.5K 120Hz OLED display, again with LTPO 3.0. It's just smaller at 6.31 inches. But what I like here is how this is a very normal 20:9 candy bar phone aspect ratio instead of something like the Z Fold 5 where it has an odd 23.1:9 panel. It makes everything feel cramped. The display here, it's covered by OnePlus's ceramic guard, which they claim is 20% tougher than Gorilla Glass Victus. And on top of all that, OnePlus offers a triple speaker setup for stereo output regardless of orientation with Dolby Atmos. So overall, the OnePlus Open seems to be a very interesting first-gen foldable from OnePlus. And the pricing, that's interesting too. It starts at $1699 USD globally and 1.4 lakhs in India, which happens to be lower, a little lower than what the Z Fold 5 retails for. So what do you think about it? Amazing? Too pricey? Let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.